After a while, he stopped calling it avoidance. Not out loud, not even in his own head. The word had stopped being useful. It felt too sharp, too intentional. What was happening didn't feel like something he was actively doing. What he noticed instead was how often he chose comfort without ever making a conscious decision to do so. It happened automatically, before he weighed options, before he considered alternatives, before he even realized there were alternatives. Comfort didn't announce itself. It didn't arrive with a warning or a name. It slipped in quietly. It looked like familiar routines, predictable days, evenings that unfolded the same way each time, the same sequence of actions, the same small rituals, the same sense of knowing what came next. Nothing unpleasant, nothing obviously wrong, no crisis, no tension, just a steady rhythm that asked very little of him. He told himself this was stability, that after years of uncertainty, it was good to finally feel settled, that not questioning everything was a sign of maturity. And maybe that was true at first. There was relief in not needing to decide so much, relief in the absence of friction, relief in days that didn't surprise him. But slowly, comfort stopped being something he enjoyed. It became something he protected. He noticed how resistant he felt to disruption. Not chaos, not danger, just change. A different routine, a new direction, an unfamiliar step forward. Even positive possibilities created tension. Opportunities that sounded good still felt unsettling. Not because they were bad, but because they introduced uncertainty. And uncertainty disturbed the comfort he'd built. It disrupted the rhythm. It required attention. It asked him to engage again instead of drifting forward on habit. The comfort habit was subtle. It didn't say, "Don't change." It said, "Not now, not today, not this week, not until things feel clearer." It framed delay as patience, as wisdom, as restraint. Clarity never came, but the comfort remained. His days filled themselves easily. There was always something to do, something small, something manageable. Tasks that felt productive without being demanding. Actions that occupied time without challenging direction. Enough to feel useful, enough to avoid stillness. And stillness, he had learned, was dangerous. Stillness created space, and space allowed questions to surface. Questions without immediate answers. Comfort, on the other hand, made time disappear. Evenings passed quickly. Weeks moved quietly. He stayed occupied without feeling rushed, busy without feeling strained. And because he wasn't suffering, he assumed he was doing fine. There was no pain to respond to, no urgency to address, no visible reason to change anything. Progress, he realized, had a different texture. Progress felt exposed. It asked him to move before certainty arrived. It required him to act while still unsure, to choose a direction without knowing where it would lead. Comfort waited. Comfort reassured him that patience was a virtue, that waiting was responsible, that holding back was wise. He remembered times earlier in his life when he'd pushed forward. Those moments had been uncomfortable, messy. They disrupted routines. They challenged assumptions. They forced him to confront parts of himself he wasn't sure about. Even when they led somewhere good, the process itself had been unsettling. Comfort protected him from that feeling. Over time, comfort stopped being a choice. It became the default. When faced with two options, his body leaned toward the familiar. Not because he'd weighed them carefully, but because familiarity felt safe. Safe meant predictable. Predictable meant manageable. Manageable meant no surprises. The cost of this didn't appear immediately. There was no dramatic failure, just a gradual slowing. Progress didn't stop. It softened, then thinned, then stalled without making a sound. Nothing broke, nothing collapsed. Life simply stopped moving forward in any noticeable way. He noticed how often he said the same phrases. I'm in a good place right now. I don't want to rock the boat. I just need things to stay calm for a bit. Each phrase carried the same message. Don't disturb what's working. But what was working? That question made him uneasy, because the honest answer wasn't growth. It wasn't expansion. It wasn't movement. It was maintenance. Comfort kept everything intact, including the parts of his life that felt unfinished. The conversations he hadn't had, the directions he hadn't chosen, the possibilities he hadn't ruled out or pursued. He realized something else too. Comfort wasn't neutral. It quietly shaped his decisions. It filtered possibilities before he consciously considered them. Anything that threatened the routine felt unreasonable. Anything that preserved it felt sensible. Logic followed comfort, not the other way around. He wasn't choosing comfort. Comfort was choosing for him. The habit grew stronger because it was rewarded. Nothing bad happened. Bills got paid. Responsibilities were handled. Life continued. And because the consequences were delayed, they were invisible. The most unsettling part was how calm everything felt. No anxiety, no crisis, just a quiet sense of being suspended, like standing still on a moving walkway. The world advanced. He stayed in place. He thought back to the moments he'd avoided. They weren't extreme. They were ordinary. Sending an honest message, admitting uncertainty, making a small but irreversible choice. Each one threatened comfort, so each one was postponed. Comfort framed this as wisdom. Don't rush. Be patient. Protect your peace. And those words sounded mature, reasonable, almost virtuous. But progress doesn't live in comfort. It lives just beyond it, in the space where things aren't fully settled yet. The longer he stayed comfortable, the harder it became to imagine leaving. Not because he couldn't, but because he forgot what discomfort felt like. And unfamiliar discomfort feels larger than familiar stagnation. He noticed something subtle but important. Comfort didn't make him happy. It made him numb. Days passed without friction, but also without meaning. Meaning, he realized, had always arrived through effort, through risk, through moments when he wasn't sure of himself. Comfort removed those moments. The habit didn't announce itself as danger. It whispered reassurance. It said, "Stay here. This is safe. There's no need to rush." And that was the problem. Comfort delayed progress so quietly that he almost missed it. Years didn't feel wasted. They felt filled. Filled with routines. Filled with manageable days. Filled with enough activity to avoid emptiness. But looking back, he saw the pattern clearly. Comfort hadn't ruined his life. It had paused it. The realization didn't spark panic. It brought clarity. He could finally name what had been happening. Avoidance led him toward comfort. Comfort kept him still. Stillness slowly replaced progress. This wasn't about rejecting comfort entirely. Comfort had its place. Rest mattered. Stability mattered. But when comfort becomes the goal instead of the refuge, something essential fades. He didn't know what he would do next. That wasn't the point. What mattered was seeing the habit for what it was. Not rest, not peace, but protection taken too far. Once he noticed it, comfort felt different. Still appealing, still soothing, but no longer neutral. Because comfort isn't dangerous when it's temporary. It's dangerous when it becomes permanent. And the most convincing thing about it is how gently it asks you to stay